We did the Samsung Galaxy S4 versus HTC One dogfight battle earlier in the week, but let's be honest, sometimes the family battles are the most fun. I'm Aaron Baker from PhoneDog.com. This time around, it's a dogfight between the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Samsung Galaxy Note 2. They're brethren, but they've got very different features across the board. Which one's the best? Let's take a look and see in the full dogfight battle. Sammy's got a brand new bag of toys, and that's in the Galaxy S4, but the Galaxy Note 2 is still an incredibly hot Android smartphone. It's a dogfight battle between the family. Galaxy Note 2 versus Galaxy S4. Two very different devices in terms of feel in the hand, but two very similar devices in terms of software offerings. Before we get into that, special thanks to our partners at Best Buy Mobile for giving us devices like the Note 2 and soon the Galaxy S4 for use in our One Paw Bandit giveaway game. When you go into Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working, whether it's a Galaxy S4 or a Note 2, they'll get you hooked up and ready to go, so you walk out the door with a bang at Best Buy Mobile. You'll walk out working. It's going to be good stuff, good stuff. Here we go, Note 2, give you a rundown of the specs. We're going to talk about hardware and software, and that'll conclude part one. In part two, you'll want to check it out because quadrant standard, camera tests, and final conclusions are going to be there. So that's where the party's at as well. The party's actually in two videos. It's a two-part party, so let's kick it off. Note 2, 1.6 gigahertz quad-core Exynos processor. You got a 5.5-inch Super AMOLED HD display, though it is only a 720p HD display over here. 8-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording. Again, 5.5 inches. You can see the size difference just between these two devices when they're held up on top of each other. You can see that this one is a little bit smaller. 5.5 inches. 3,100 milliamp hour battery in this device, 4G LTE connectivity, availability on all four of the major US carriers, plus US Cellular, and then it's got Android 4.1 with TouchWiz. Galaxy S4, latest and greatest from Samsung, packing incredible specifications in the US, including a 1.9 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 600 CPU, a 5-inch 1080p HD display. I did the little finger pointy thing before I started talking about the display, but you know what, you get the point. 5-inch 1080p Super AMOLED HD display, 13-megapixel camera with 1080p HD video recording and a wealth of awesome features. A front-facing camera on both of these devices, 2,600 milliamp hour battery, and I should point out both of these batteries are removable in the Note 2 and in the Galaxy S4. A little bit smaller here, but a smaller device all around. 4G LTE connectivity when it does launch on AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, US Cellular, Cricket, and C Spire. And then it's got Android 4.2.2, so a later version, the latest version of Jelly Bean with TouchWiz. So we've got two Samsung devices here, very similar in terms of look and feel because they're both running TouchWiz, just different versions of TouchWiz, but this one brings some new goodies to the table. But before we start into software, let's talk a little bit about hardware. This is a big device. There's no looking around it. It's smaller, at least in terms of feel in the hand, than the Galaxy Note, the original device, but it still is a meaty device in the hand. It feels hefty, it's hard to carry in the pocket at times, and if you're wearing shorts, you're going to feel the bulk. But like anything in the wireless industry, there's a purpose for everybody. This is great for a road warrior because it's got a fantastic 3,100 milliamp hour battery that is removable and huge. So when you look at it that way, somebody that's traveling, I've carried this to meetings, to events, I'm traveling all the time for work, I'm constantly in an airplane. And it's the one device I've carried, and I haven't had to worry about battery life. I can make it a day or 2 days. During CES, regularly would make it a day and a half. During meetings in New York, can take it off the charger in Dallas, fly to New York, fly home, and still have a perfectly good charge. I regularly, in my time with this device, can go 2 days with moderate use without charging this battery. That's fantastic for somebody that uses their phone as much as I do. Great use case there. Also a great use case in the S Pen. This thing, many people wrote off as a gimmick. I use this on a regular basis to sign contracts for work. I use it to jot down ideas and notes. Definitely would take a look at this if you're looking at a device where you want to sign contracts or edit things on the fly. Very useful all around with that. Then you have the Galaxy S4, the latest and greatest in terms of specifications, and that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for the latest and greatest, the new hotness. It's got the Galaxy S look and feel. It's a little bit smaller, easier to pocket, and the travel across the display is a little bit better. Newer version of Android, so you're getting all the goodies. So the nerds and the techies are really going to like this because it's got Jelly Bean out of the box and a stock, or excuse me, not a stock build with TouchWiz, but still a new version of Jelly Bean. Got some great specs as well that a lot of people are going to like, from first-time smartphone buyers to those people that really enjoy the latest and the greatest, with a 1.9 gigahertz quad-core Snapdragon 600 CPU. Hardware-wise, you're looking at kind of the same design language. Samsung continues along with their plastic. You've got the volume rocker on the left side on both devices. I should point out this is the first device to come with Gorilla Glass 3 out of the box, but you do have volume rockers over here, micro USB charging ports at the bottom. Then you got your cameras on the back. The flash is slightly different on both of these. Interestingly enough, I found that they went back to the Galaxy S2 look and feel with this, with the flash below as opposed to the side in certain, well, actually it depends on which Galaxy S2 you were looking at. But switching it around a little bit, taking it back, they go to the side or down depending on the Galaxy S design you're talking about. So got that front-facing cameras there as well. You got your physical buttons down here, 2 capacitive menu and back buttons. So again, design language very similar across the board. You do have polycarbonate sides on the Galaxy S4, power buttons on both of these units, and then 3.5mm headphone jacks up top. You also get an IR blaster on the Galaxy S4, so much like the Galaxy Note 8.0, you can use Samsung's Watch On service to program your TV and use this as a TV remote. You can find great programs on TV if you're like me and you're a sucker for, let's hypothetically say, air disasters or Grey's Anatomy. You can go to find Grey's Anatomy just by typing it in, finding the channel, and you can surf right to it with your phone. So again, you know, target demographic here, Samsung wants this to be a life companion. This is great for those people that want to do content creation on the fly. Now this is a Verizon version, this is a Sprint version, so the apps out of the box are going to be slightly different as we roll into the software portion of this dogfight. But you can see kind of similar applications across the board. Of course, all the Amazon stuff on Verizon's side, Audible. And then you get Mobile Hotspot, My Verizon Mobile, Polaris Office, Setup Wizard, Visual Voicemail, VZ Navigator, all the Verizon stuff you would expect, along with Zappos. Over here, Sprint, pretty light on the carrier bloatware. Sprint Music Plus, Sprint TV and Movies, Sprint Zone, Sprint Worldwide. That's about the only Sprint influence you get on this device. In fact, they go as far as to go ahead and get rid of the logo. It's got Samsung and Galaxy S4 on the back. No Sprint logo on this device whatsoever. It is the only Galaxy S4 that does not have some carrier logo in some form. AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, they all have it right here under the Samsung logo on the battery cover. Though I will say, fortunately enough, this time around, Verizon did not opt to put their logo on the home button. So that is a nice perk on the Galaxy S4 if that's something that bothers you on the Galaxy Note 2. Now again, TouchWiz running on both of these, Android 4.1 over here, Android 4.2 over here, and they brought some features much like anything else with Samsung. It's always kind of an incremental jump. So the Note 3 will most likely have some of the features of the Galaxy S4, and it'll make it a little bit better than the Galaxy S4. They'll revolutionize it just a little bit more to make it the cooler device. And the Galaxy S5 will come out, or whatever they call it. It'll be a little bit more revolutionary than the Note 3. It's typical marketing, it's marketing 101, that's what they're doing here with the Galaxy S4. So you see a lot of the Note features transcribed over here onto the Galaxy S4, and then they made some things better as well with things like air gesture, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But you can immediately see the Android 4.1 to Android 4.2 differences here with the settings button up top. But you see this as well, and this is an Android 4.2 thing. You can either use 2 fingers to swipe down, and you can access every one of those shortcuts that most people love about the Samsung devices. And not only can you access them, you can edit them as well. So let's say, for example, air gesture isn't one I use on a regular basis. I can move that away and I can bring up, let's say, airplane mode, because like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm constantly traveling. Throw airplane mode right up there in the top left, and then when I swipe back down, airplane mode is right there. So that's a new feature over the Note 2. You can now customize this area, and as a result, you've got a ton more options here as to what you can customize. Brightness settings in both as well. And then of course notifications, both are running Android, a later version of Android, so you do get those new notifications with previews. The one different caveat here, Verizon really wants you to use Wi-Fi. They're encouraging Wi-Fi with the tiered data plan changes, and they have this really pesky, annoying, ongoing Wi-Fi notification that you can't get rid of. It sits there on their device. I can only assume it'll be the same on the Galaxy S4. Kind of frustrating, something that may bother you, something that may not bother you, but I'm a stickler for those little things, and I like to point those out in these videos. Something to consider. Then over here, we'll go into settings and take a look at some of the benefits of Android 4.2 over Android 4.1. First of all, you're going to notice an overall change in the look and feel of settings. They've tabbed it out over here with connections, My Device, accounts, and more. And I'll go into My Device, for example. I can customize my lock screen. I can go down here. Blocking mode is still on the Galaxy S4. The only Galaxy Note 2 that it's not on is the Verizon version. And then over here, AirView Smart Screen. So it brings all these things that some of which we may see or be familiar with from the Note 2, but information preview, progress preview, speed dial preview, web page magnifier, and these are particularly cool because it brings that S Pen type functionality where if you remember from the Note 2 and all the extensive coverage we've done, the pen is not white, by the way. I lost the pen in this one, so I'm using a spare that I have laying around. And we'll go into camera, for example, and you can scroll over and not touch the display and see a preview of some of the pictures, including my very scary face right there. This has been brought over to the Galaxy S4 as well, but even though it doesn't have an S Pen, all you have to do is hover your finger over this device. So I can go to camera, for example, and hover over and see all of my pictures. I can go to downloads, I can go to screenshots, and more, and do the same thing that I did with the Note 2. So again, bringing some of those features over onto the Galaxy S4 and making them even better with some of the other cooler AirView options like progress preview, speed dial preview, where if you use speed dial, you can take advantage of pressing, or actually it's to say holding above a number, let's say a 2 or a 5, and you can get your shortcut. Information preview, particularly useful in the applications that support it, but they go one step further, like I was saying. And Smart Screen as well. Smart Stay, nothing new. Smart Rotation, nothing new. Smart Scroll is particularly cool when you go into the internet, for example, and we'll load up phonedog.com. You can use your hands and you can use your eyes to do cool things. So for example, wait for it to identify my eyes. As you can see, all I have to do is scroll up, move my head up, and it scrolls up on CNN's page. When I want to scroll down, all I have to do is move my head down. So very cool feature there. Will you use it? I find myself using it more than I thought I would. And then of course you have the hand gestures as well, where I can swipe between pages, between CNN, for example, and between phonedog.com as I see fit. Let's get that swiped. Bam. And you don't have that over on the Note 2, but you still get the S Pen functionalities. And for a lot of people that like content creation, this is going to be a good option for taking notes in meetings or in class. In part 2, we'll pick up our discussion of the software, we'll talk about quadrant standard and speed tests, we'll talk about camera, and we'll wrap it out as we choose the best device between these two brethren, the Note 2 and the Galaxy S4. Stick around.